So firstly, the most important thing, I guess, with learning how to play chords is learning how to actually press chords, alright? So if you look at your guitar, what you have is strings which are floating just above the neck of the guitar, and what you have here, like these are called frets: first fret, second fret, third fret, fourth fret, fifth fret, and in between each fret you have a little metal bar, which is when you press a string down, what happens is it helps you to create a tone. Wherever you press. Alright, so when you're pressing chords, an important thing that you need to know is that you need to be pressing them with the tips of your fingers. Okay, you need to be pressing down on them with the tips of your fingers, so that you can, for one thing, it's easier to apply. The tip of your finger is small, and it is the easiest way to apply strong pressure onto the string when you're pressing down. Because if you don't apply enough pressure onto the string as you're pressing it, instead of getting a sound like that, you get a sound that's muted like that. Okay, and when you hear this, this means that you are not pressing the string high enough, and you just have to press harder. Okay, and this is going to be probably the hardest part, one of the hardest parts for beginners, because this is one of the parts where a lot of beginners get really frustrated, because, you know, pressing chords is a fundamental part of playing guitar, and when you can't do it and you start pressing chords and you find that it doesn't sound right, it can be frustrating. But you know, it takes time, it takes patience, and usually what happens, especially when you're playing steel string guitars, it can be a bit harder to press, and what will happen over time is the tips of your fingers will start to build up calluses, and these calluses will actually help make it easier for you to press down the strings, because the tips of your fingers will be harder and it will be easier to press down. So just give yourself time, you know, don't play till your fingers bleed, but give yourself time and be patient, alright? So let's say for example, to press the E minor chord, what you want to do is try and, as you can see here, the tip of your finger needs to go straight down into the string, and this one as well, straight down into the string. And if you look at my wrist, it's just relaxed, and my thumb is up here, really sort of behind the neck, providing support and providing a place where I can grip, so I can push my fingers down, because if my thumb wasn't there, I would have no support. So your thumb is there providing support. You can hold tighter or looser, you can fold it over the neck or just leave it straight, depending on whatever you want to do. But whatever position is most comfortable for you, to apply the necessary amount of pressure onto the string. Okay, that's what you want to do. And when you play the string, one good thing you can do is just go through each string, just to see whether the sound's coming out right. Because if you're not pressing hard enough, what you're going to hear is something like this. And if you're strumming and you're not pressing it properly, it may not be immediately obvious that there's a problem, because the other strings are vibrating but these two are not. But so I'm not pressing hard enough now. What you hear is this. But if I press harder and press correctly, what you hear is this. Alright, so it's a bit hard to hear that there's a problem if you are strumming. So what I'll recommend you do is, when you're just starting to learn to press the chords, and then just, or if you're more comfortable with strumming, okay, just to make sure that the tone is clear. And that's the most important thing you need to focus on. Don't worry about strumming and playing chords at the same time. Focus on one thing at a time. When you're trying to practice your strumming, practice your strumming. When you're trying to get used to pressing chords. Get used to pressing chords. Don't get hung up about trying to get both right at the same time, alright? Master each skill individually and then combine them, alright? Patience. So with that, here, practice holding individual chords. And once you are comfortable holding each individual chord, then we can start moving on to chord progressions, which are basically, chord progressions are basically when you play chords one after the other successively in a specific sort of pattern, like G, D, E minor, C, you know. So that's an example of a chord progression, but don't worry about that right now. This video is mainly to teach you how to press chords. So as closing tips, remember, try to use the tip of your finger, try not to touch other strings as you are pressing down on one string, except of course if you have to press multiple strings, but for these 4 chords, no, you don't. Tip of your finger right down. Over time, your fingers will get harder and they will build up calluses and it will be less painful to press. Okay, so don't worry. At the start it's going to be painful, you may not be able to practice very long, but after a while, you, like within I think a week or less, your fingers will not be so painful. Alright, so just be patient, and when they do hurt, just stop. Don't force yourself. Okay, so in the next few videos I'm going to go into more detail of how to play each of the 4 main chords, which are G, G major, D major, E minor, and C. You know, I might refer to these chords simply as G, D, E minor, and C. Alright, I won't say G major, D major, C major. I'll just say G, D, C. And when I say it without any sort of ending, those are the chords I'm referring to. Alright?